Send it to me. Sure, on this time.
Really good. I feel like it's
Not good.
been good. Good. Email slow down yet? Did the email slow down? It just takes you.
Excited, like, see a school over. Otherwise, unless it's like,
The work online.
yeah. So I'm trying to get you a little bit. Here we go. That's a good idea. That's a good idea. Yeah, it's really cool. It's actually kind of, I might start doing that. There's times I click on the
And then I'll just get my started. For them, it's a big deal.
Your turn.
No, I didn't see him.
You're up, Dennis.
It's 6:30, I guess we'll call the meeting in order. I'd like to welcome our guests and staff. First item up is approval of the agenda. Motion by Mark,
I'll second.
second by Lori. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. 6-0. Motion carries. I don't believe there's anybody signed up for the open forum. Next is approval of the consent agenda. That's approval of regular open minutes for August 18th and declaring the item surplus. And you guys will provide with the list. We'll get a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Ty,
I'll second.
second by Naomi. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. 5, and I have to abstain. Motion carries. Okay, approval of the transfer and payment of bills. Do you have any questions?
I did not have any questions this month.
I'll make a motion, we approve the payment transfer.
Motion from Mark,
Second.
Ty. Any questions or discussions? All in favor, raise your right hand. 6-0. Motion carries. Reports. Elementary report.
Good evening. You guys are fast. I'm gonna be ready. The attendance, we're just up by 1 there. A little shift in our virtual learners. We did have 3 that returned to school. It's a whole different platform and format, and so some of them, it's just not what they were looking for. And so some of the activities going on lately, we're really working heavily in our grade level meetings. Those started last week. So math is a big part of the conversation as we really start identifying our priority standards and making sure that they're the same as what we thought they were going to be or have had in the past. And we have several steps we're going through there to identify those, to build our pacing guides, to make sure that we've adjusted our curriculum to meet the 4-day week, as well as the loss of fourth quarter last year. So we're doing a lot of work in that area with our grade level meetings. We've had some discussion about their professional development plans, the NEE indicators are the things that we go in and observe them on. And so we've talked a little bit about those things and just having some good discussions in our grade level meetings. We'll continue those each week with kind of different topics each week that we go through. Referrals, disciplinary referrals, we have had 9 to date. 3 of them were our younger students on the bus. So, at one point, Mrs. Smith and I giggled a little bit because a bus driver was a little upset at a student, and rightly so, but he said at the end, it's like he has no idea how to ride the bus. And we went, really wonder if they have any idea how to ride the bus. So Joe came over and they did take the kids through that, and they were tickled. The kids, half of them had never been to bus before. So, even getting them ready for field trips or whatever might be coming in the future, they got a chance to hear from Mr. Joe, find out what the expectations were, and then he took them on a little trip. So they just think they think they already went on a field trip. It was a pretty good deal. And then we haven't had referrals since then, so hopefully that helped a little bit, but just a few referrals there. I will tell you, the kids are so respectful. Something I have found here that probably make you guys feel good too, makes me feel good, as they come in if they are in trouble, they sit down, they listen. They hear what you're saying to them. They do whatever reconciliation needs to be done, and I'm just so pleased with how they handle themselves and conduct themselves when I'm talking to them. So we'll continue to monitor that. Teachers are very really working with that system, so the kids that really need to see me are coming to see me. Launch virtual learning, Mrs. Everett has really taken over a little bit more of that at this point right now. And so she's checking in with virtual learners on a regular basis and keeping up on that and making sure they have what they need. We have had a few students that might have had a charger issue or an internet issue, and so we kind of are supporting them through that conversation. We do have 3 students out of the 8 that are remaining right now who are planning to return for second quarter. So then we'll be down to 5 that are doing the virtual learning through launch.
So you have 8 virtual learners right now then?
Right now, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we started with 11 and then 3 were really just it wasn't for them. So we're at 8, but we know at least 3 are going to return to us again for second quarter. Dibbles is the data system that we're utilizing to input all of our Dibbles data, all the reading foundational skills that they've been assessing. And so that's actually, we finally got everything set up today. So they're working on the Dibbles data and getting that inputted, and then we will start our data meetings on those reading foundational skills and start analyzing those and setting up some of our Title I groups. And Title staff's very excited about where that's going and the work that they're going to do with those groups. Evaluate testing we did last week went really well. We had some spirit days, a lot of excitement about that. We did popsicles today. We got them for Friday, but they didn't freeze fast enough. So we did them today, and the kids were so tickled. And we said, "Are you going to do good next month?" And they said, "Yeah, they worked very hard." And we got some very good data that we're going to be able to use to help our kids close that gap from fourth quarter and to get them ready. So we were very pleased with the data we're getting, and we're going to, like I said, be able to utilize it very well. Our PTO has their first fundraiser and their biggest fundraiser of the year going on right now. That's with the Charleston Wrap. Internet safety is a piece, we have to make sure all of our kids are trained in internet safety. So Mrs. Baker is going to do that through the library as they come in there. She has access to the Chromes and to the computer lab. So she's going to start working with them on internet safety, make sure all of our kids understand the importance of that. Committees, we worked really hard. They're actually still up. I thought I should have erased them. You can see how messy our handwriting is. But, we set up our committees yesterday when we had our PD day. And so we kind of reformed what some of these committees were, what their purpose is, and went through that. And then we actually met yesterday afternoon and had our first committee meetings. So each one of them are kind of energized with some new people and some new purpose. And so I'm pleased that those got set up, and that I've got some good feedback from the staff on that. So yesterday was filled with just lots of learning. We had our trainers from DCI come in. We worked with them. We met as a whole staff in the elementary. and went through identifying, kind of like I mentioned earlier, the identification of our priority standards. And we worked on our professional development plans that each teacher has to do on their own for what they're looking to grow, in areas they're looking to grow. We set up our committees and we had a little time to just do some working and collaborating together as a team. Went very well, really pleased with that day. Some upcoming calendar events. We have, I have a conference this Friday. I was kind of tickled that the elementary principals get together in the conference now, and I didn't think they were doing that. So we go into that meeting on Friday, maybe get to know some of the area principals. Picture day we have coming up, PTO meeting. They were wanting to meet a little bit less, but then they got so busy with the fundraising, they said, we need to meet again. So they put in a new meeting date for the 1st. And then our next staff development day, professional development day is the 12th. And then we'll be back in to evaluate next in October. So I might have gone too fast. Any questions?
How are you adjusting, playing catch up from last quarter? How do you handle that?
Well, we're looking at data. So between evaluating our Dibbles data, we're really going to identify those kids that might have some lagging skills and use our title staff and some of the small group and classrooms to be able to fill in some of those holes. The thing that we found is so far with the evaluate testing that we've done is they're not as far behind as we thought they were. So we've had some good discussions today just around the building as teachers are looking at that data. We'll have more formal conversations about it, but most of them are going, it's not as bad as we thought. They're doing okay. So we've got to get those pacing guides laid out. So what we'll do is we'll look at our 4-day week and then really lay out when they're teaching things and when they're assessing things to make sure that we get them all in. And then our title staff will become very important. So if we have kids really missing skills, we'll use our title staff to kind of support that catch-up learning.
So you're gonna evaluate them again about December or something? See where they're
Well, what we do is the evaluate testing that we have right now, it's an online assessment that's really similar to the MAP. It's actually a little more rigorous than MAP, but a very similar format, and we do it every month.
at. Oh, okay.
And so, yeah, so in September, it covered half of the standards in reading and in math, and then in October, it will cover the other half. So every 2 months, we get to see a full picture of our standards for that grade level. So that really tells us if our kids are making it or not.
Good.
So for the first assessment, we had half of the standards covered, and so we're feeling pretty good about those half standards, or that number of standards. In reading, we'll use our Dibbles assessment to really make sure that we're covering the phonics pieces and all that they need in place to be good readers.
Okay.
So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Husing.
Thank you.
I'll turn the board back over to the board.
Go ahead,
president.
you're fine. So we're at the high school and middle school. Is that where we're at?
Yes, and Mr. Bible has the softball game tonight, so he's not here, but you do have his report in your folder there. At the time that he wrote it, they had an enrollment of 325, they had 3 discipline referrals. He said huge shout out to Mr. Moorfield and Mr. Medley for helping with the Chromebook distribution, and definitely thank you to those people. One thing we've also done this year that I think not only has it worked extremely well, but it's kind of helped bridge the middle school, high school, and elementary school is the high school and middle school staff. For parent pickup in the afternoon, they take 5 of the cones, and elementary takes 5 of the cones. So they kind of all have to work together in order to make parent pickup run smoothly, and that's not been done before. So, and it's really kind of neat to watch those high school teachers interact with those little people, and it's just been really kind of a neat thing. So, and then of course they have their virtual learners as well. They have 19 at this point that are enrolled in virtual learning as well. So
Did you say 19?
19, yeah, district-wide we have 27. And of course, they had PD yesterday too with DCI. And I don't know if you guys remember us talking about DCI last year. The really nice thing about the DCI, it stands for District Continuous Improvement. Bessie always has acronyms for everything. The nice thing about the DCI work is that it can be tailored by building. So for example, elementary yesterday worked more on priority standards and determining their priority standards. And high school worked more on how to assess students because they're at different places. And so that's nice because they'll come in and they'll tailor it to where we are. So, and then they worked on their PD plans yesterday as well and did some virtual instruction type things. So that's kind of where the high school is and the place and then you have to put.
as after last night, I believe volleyball was 0-4. Softball unfortunately lost tonight too, so they're 1-9. Cross country, they had 2 medals in Haven. I believe it was Reagan won, and then
It was JV.
oh yeah, it was JV. I'm sorry, it was Marissa Keller and Trenton Burnett on the JV. I believe Marissa got 13th, Trenton got 6th. Then we had our Lent Invitational this weekend. I believe Reagan did on that one, right? She got 29th. And then we had a little over 700 athletes, 35 schools. I think given all the COVID guidelines, I think it went pretty smooth. The way we kind of had it set up. There was one little hiccup, but it wasn't a huge ordeal. But for the most part, I think it went well. Baseball, they're 4-1 right now. Junior high, we finally did get enough boys gathered up. We got 8 of them currently, and I believe that I was able to stick. Unfortunately, we wouldn't have enough practices in for the game that was supposed to be the 18th, so we had to forfeit that one, but we'll get ready to roll 28th at Chamois, and there's 13 girls playing, and they will play at the 18th at Chamois. Any questions?
There's only 8 boys.
Well, I had 4 at one point, so 8's pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's just, wow.
It was, I had to do a little recruiting.
Yeah?
I mean, we were within a day of canceling.
It was really close, but fortunately, I think, no. So
Recruiting junior high is easy. You don't have to do Nike shoes. Zuka bubble gum, get it.
So you're recruiting now?
I called in every single junior high boy and said, if you're interested in playing, stay here. We have a date, so. All you have a season, that's kind of the main thing.
You have a couple double sporting and cross country.
I got one. Yeah. But
All right, thank you. Superintendent report.
So middle school and high school have started their after-school tutoring. As Mrs. Kingsley said, they did their first round of evaluate assessments. Of course, we've already talked about DCI training. The middle school, high school social studies books that we ordered are in, and they're very thankful for those. As far as for goal 2, I've told you before too, he's got open gym.
Yeah, take it out of there.
Yeah, he's got open gym, I told him. Our new Aptigee system is very user-friendly. It is so easy to post things to multiple platforms, so we love it. As you know, we are serving free breakfast and lunch, and we were actually able to partner with St. George and list them as a site under our district so that they also can offer free breakfast and lunch. So they're up and running now as well. And that's through December 31st, providing funds don't run out. But as of right now, we're projecting through December 31st. We do have 13 people who are picking up meals daily who aren't in school or are coming to school. So we have 13 meals that we're doing as pickups every day. Mrs. Kingsley and I had a great meeting with Martha Ray with Central Missouri Community Action. She's actually retiring at the end of this month, I believe is what she said. And so her replacement is going to be Jennifer Millard, and they came and met with us. And we just had a great conversation about all the things that are available and all the ways that they can help us. So that's a resource that it was nice to sit down and have a face-to-face meeting with. Our hotspots are in, and they're currently being utilized by a few families within our district. So those are up and running. Normally we have a conference PD day, and that's scheduled for October 12th, but we canceled that due to COVID. We didn't think it was necessarily a great idea to bring all the teachers from 9 different schools together in one spot. So we canceled that. So we will be conducting our own professional development day here in our district on that day. And we've got some ideas that the admin team is working on for that day as well. And again, teacher evaluations are starting and are underway. Teachers are working on their PD plans that are due for pre-implementation approval by September 22nd. We have 2 water bottle filling stations that are still back ordered, so we're still waiting on those. Every building now has 2, except the middle school, they have 1, but they have 1 set of water fountains. So they have 1 downstairs and 1 in the field house. So, I mean, if we have 2 in each building, it's just that I have 2 more orders, so we'll have 3 in the elementary and 3 in the high school, but we're waiting on those. They're just back ordered at this We had to do some repairs on the air conditioning unit that services the middle school over here. It's getting pretty old, so at some point, that may be something we have to look at in the future. One of the things that has been an issue in the elementary since it was built is a humidity issue. To the point where in the office, they have to run a dehumidifier constantly and empty it multiple times a day. And things still, if you leave your papers in there, they start wrinkling. It's just a huge issue. So Brian Voss with Harold Butzer came down. He actually started coming down in June. And I think he came down 3 times without ever charging me anything, trying to get it. Because another thing was that the system wasn't set. And so it wasn't running efficiently because it wasn't set to run efficiently. Well, in the course of checking things out, he realized that so the system is a fresh air system. So it pulls in fresh air and then conditions that air so that you constantly have fresh air moving throughout your building, but it's conditioned air. Well, the fans that bring that air in are supposed to be on some type of timer system so that you're not just pulling in air all the time. Well, when he got to looking at everything and researching it and looking at the specs, the timers that are on the specs were never installed. So our fans were running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it was bringing in so much outside air that there was no way that the system could keep up with conditioning it. So as a temporary fix, every night we shut the breakers off to those fans, and every morning we turn the breakers back on to those fans as a temporary fix. So I contacted SearPal, who was our general contractor for that, and of course they passed it on to AirServe. I actually got notified today that the company that they bought the equipment from is supplying the timers, because we should have gotten those to begin with, and AirServe is actually going to come back and install them. I don't know exactly the date yet because they're waiting for the timers to come in and to be delivered. But hopefully then, once we get those timers put on, that will help rectify some of our humidity issues in this building. Hopefully that's going to be fairly quickly rectified as well.
All right, we'll move on to discussion action items. BAT report.
You do have the report in your folder. It's just an annual report. If you have any questions, I can definitely try to answer them. Abigail Duke and Cassie Sneller are our PAT educators. And so for 1920, they served 30 families. 8 of those were high needs families and 22 were not high needs. They had served 35 the year before. They do group connections events. Now last year they didn't do as many because of COVID, obviously. And they screened a total of 74 children. So one of the things that we definitely want to work on this year is growing the program again. I'm going to say that is going to be somewhat limited by the fact that they can't do in-person visits right now. Everything has to be a virtual visit. So we might not see that growth quite as much as we would like. We can't have the group connections right now because of COVID. So some of that, their hands are going to be tied a little bit. But if you have any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
Third and final reading of policy 4131. Anyone have anything on that?
I'll make a motion to approve the policy 4131.
We have a motion by Dennis,
Second.
second by Mark. Any further discussion? All in favor, right hand. 7-0. First reading of regulation 4150.
When we raised subpay last month, we now need to take care of our regulation that goes along with that. Right now, in the regulation, it specifically says what they're going to get paid. And if you, and I can bring that up too, if you looked at the actual, my recommendation for that, it's not to put the actual dollar value in there. So instead of saying they're gonna get paid $80 a day, it says that we will determine their pay annually. And then it says that if you're not certified in the area where you're long-term subbing, it'll be $10 a day over the daily rate. If you are certified, it'll be $30 a day over the daily rate, which is what we do now. But instead of putting specific numbers in there, I got more general because that will keep us from having to re-adopt that anytime that we give a raise to our subs.
Right, then, it's doing 3 readings every time you have to change it.
Right. So that's the only changes that I am recommending for that.
MCE policy revisions.
It's that time of year where we get our policy revisions based on the last legislative session from our policy providers, Missouri Consultants for Education. Policy 1300 is our non-discrimination, harassment, retaliation policy. And so it has some minor revisions to it. Policy 1301, though, is brand new, and that's because Title IX has, and I'm sure Dr. Strong's dealing with this at the college level too, they have really revamped their regulations for Title IX. And so we have a whole new policy now that just regulates Title IX. Emma and I got to sit through a 4-hour training on that the other day. And we have another 2-hour, I have another 2-hour training coming up because the regulations for that now are just much more detailed than they have been. So that's what 1301 is. Policy 2640, it deals with tobacco, alcohol, drugs, and so on. Changes are very minor. A lot of it deals with vaping, which has, it definitely is an issue. There are 3 policies that I'm not recommending at this time. Policy 2763, I am not recommending until regulations are issued by Children's Division, because if we recommend that at this time without the appropriate regulations, we're kind of flying blind on what to do with that policy, and it is not mandatory. Policy 2870, again, until we get some legislative intent on that, it makes that policy somewhat difficult to interpret. It's not one that we have to have at this particular moment in time either. And then the lead testing one is also optional. And that one actually only applies to buildings over 20 years old. And so the only building we have that would even apply to would be the field house. So again, it's not something that we have to have in place. So I'm not recommending that one at this time. Policy and Form 5330, we now have to have a policy related to anti-Israel boycotts. So we have to have that policy in place, so that is a mandatory policy. And policy 6145 adds some clarity to what is considered a service animal in schools. In the state of Missouri, the definition of a service animal was different than the federal definition of a service animal. So they had to, basically the state can't overrule the federal government. So they had to bring this policy in line with the federal provisions. And so that policy is mandatory as well.
What one was that?
The 6145, service animals in school. So the only ones that I have recommended for adoption are those that are mandatory at this time. And those others we will probably revisit later once we get some clarification on some of the parts of those policies.
Okay, I'll move to adopt the following policies and regulations. Policy 1300, policy 1301, policy 2640, policy 5330, policy 6145, regulation 1300, regulation 1301, and regulation 6145.
We have a motion by Dennis,
Second.
second by Ty. Any discussion? All in favor, right hand? We put that in all of our photo contracts too.
Really?
Yep. Yep.
Interesting.
And when they sign out, they spell Israel wrong.
That's the state.
Approve ACT.
So several years ago, I can't remember how many now, the state had required that all juniors take the ACT, and so the district paid for that. Well, that quickly went by the wayside, and in the past couple of years, the district has paid for the juniors to take the ACT anyway. Well, last year, the recommendation for this year from Mr. Bauer, Mr. Feigl, and Mrs. Wolf was to pay for the ACT for those juniors who want to take the ACT and who take our ACT prep courses. So rather than making them all take the test and paying for it, we're saying if they want to take the test, we will pay for it. So, or if you all approve that, we will pay for it. So the anticipated cost is around $800 to the district. We will, because it was approved last year to pay for the juniors to take the test, to take the ACT test, but they did not get to take it in the spring. We will test them in the fall, and we will pay that as well. So our cost for the whole year will be over $800, but that is because we're testing for seniors this year as well. But the cost just to test the juniors should be in the ballpark of $800. So we're asking for you to cover the cost of the ACT for those students who wish to take the ACT.
Missed out last year also. The seniors have missed out last year.
Yes, yes.
I'll make a motion, we approve the ACT, pay the ACT for the juniors this year.
I have a motion by Mark,
Second.
second by Lori. Further discussion?
Previously, we required all the juniors, or we just paid for all the juniors?
Previously, we required all the juniors to take it.
I would encourage us to go back and look at that again. I'd hate to think that we have a student that doesn't know maybe that they're college material and that they don't take the ACT, and maybe they were college material and miss out on that opportunity because we didn't require them to take the ACT.
What we have found with that is we have so many that know that they're going to either the military or they're going to a textbook that doesn't require it. And so they feel like they have to take whatever assessment is required for that program, plus then we require them to take the ACT as well. And so what typically happens then is that those students who don't want to take it try so little on it that it becomes pointless for them because they just go through the motions. They don't really try on the assessment. And so that's kind of why we decided not to require them to. And prior to the 1 year that DESE required it, it had never been required before. But that's why we went back to not requiring it, because of those students who know that they're not going to go to an institution that requires these.
Yeah, but that's really, I mean, who's that going to be? I mean, who's not going to require ACT? I mean, your military is going to require ASVAB, but outside of that, I mean, we require ACT.
There are a lot of junior colleges and technical
They're open
schools that
enrollment,
don't.
but they're still going to have to take placement tests to
Right.
get into. But if they have an ACT score sufficient enough, then they won't have to take placement tests. I mean, what I'm saying is everybody requires ACT. Now they have alternatives, but everybody requires ACT.
Well, that's not been our experience. So that's
I've done this a few years.
There's some issues too with the prep course conflicting with some people that want to take other
Yes.
activities. 'Cause I think I heard some feedback from some of the community members that they were upset because they felt the juniors were being forced to take this prep course that they may or may not want to take the ACT, and it was cutting them out of a different
Yes, that is
extracurricular that they wanted to take. So
You know, again, I'd say, you have students out there that don't think I'm gonna go to college. I don't want to go to college. But then they look back on it and say, man, I should have at least given it the old college try. And if you don't require them to take the ACT, I mean, they're never gonna know. And even if you have one or two kids, one kid a year, that you get them to go to college instead of going to get a minimum wage job, it's well worth the investment.
When that all came back around, to start with, we were running a prep class that we required all students to take. School board agreed, the state used to pay for it, and they dropped their support of the program. And so we said that if you went to the prep class, that we would pay for it. We're not prohibiting people from taking the ACT test. Anybody can go take one on their own. We're just saying that we will honor the commitment to pay for those that actually do take the prep test. I realize that, yeah, there are students, I was one of those students that went back later, back when I was in the military, but those students still have the same opportunity. They can request to take an ACT test. They just have to pay for it themselves.
And if they have free or reduced lunch, they
Right.
get one free.
And I had a daughter that wasn't satisfied with the grade and took it 3 times, and at that time, I was paying for it each time.
Right.
And she actually did worse on the second, third test than she did on the first one.
Yes, we encourage everyone to take it, and we, explain the importance of it to them.
But,
It's just
so if you're not taking that prep class, if you wanted to take it, you would still want to take it.
Oh,
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yes.
All right, so it's not a requirement anymore to take the prep class to take.
do juniors not have to take the prep class anymore?
They did not have to. It was not required this year. And again, because like Lori said, we were getting a lot of feedback from students and parents that because we forced them to take that prep class, it was then cutting out other courses for them that they wanted to be able to take.
I don't think it was the test itself that they cared about, it was the class that they were, it was taking up
Took up time that they could have taken something
another
else that they.
extracurricular, some other class.
I'd argue there's nothing better you could take than ACT prep. One, I don't know that you should like be taking an ACT prep, but
Right.
if you're gonna study for the test, and that's, you look at the return on that, I think not requiring it is a mistake. Not requiring the ACT is a bigger mistake, but not requiring the prep guys, I think is a mistake as well. If you look at senior globals, it's hard to make the argument that it's really cut into academic time.
Does not making it mandatory or making it mandatory when the kids that just blow it off and go in there and ABC, does that hurt the school? Like, does that reflect back on the school when
Yes, it does. We get a overall report that shows how the school district as a whole scored. And then those results are also reported on our APR.
so when you are the parents, because I know maybe some kids might say, I'm not taking that, but their parents don't have any idea that they were even offered it till it's too late. Are the parents going to be notified that your son or daughter has chosen not to take it? I mean, because
They have to register, I can't remember how far it is ahead of time, but a pretty significant span ahead of time.
but I don't
and
think the
so-
parents register them.
They
No.
have to have some information from the parents that it
Yeah,
would be
Austin
difficult
is-
for a parent not to know because it does require some information on there,
I don't think
but
I ever filled out anything until after they were paying for it. I was paying for it.
But we do send things home too that tell them these are the test registration, or these are the test dates, these are the registration dates. Make sure your
But
child
I
is
think Miss
registered.
Wolf registers the kids for the one that's taken it here that the school pays.
Right, so then those kids that are registered to take it here, those that are not, would get notified that they are not registered to take the test. Is that what you were asking?
Kind of, because I'm kind of thinking that maybe if the parents knew that their child was choosing not to take it, they may be like, hey, that's free, you get in there and at least try.
And I can
Yeah.
talk to Shannon about that and make sure that she notifies all of the parents.
Except the, the kids that don't
Registered.
want to take it, I know in my circumstances, if I didn't make my son take it, he probably would not have, he would have been one of those, I'm not taking that. But,
So it's hard to ask a 17-year-old to make adult choices. And this is an adult choice.
right.
I mean,
And there are very few schools who still can pay for a portion of it. Once Desi dropped that, most schools dropped paying for it as well, and don't require it for their students. We have never felt like that was the way to go, and still don't. I just am not sure. Do I believe that the ACT is important? Absolutely, beyond a doubt. I just don't know that forcing a kid as a district to take it
Right, I get that. I just
is
wanted to
going
make
to
sure that,
produce any meaningful results.
that before the test day, that, the ones that chose not to take it, their parents are
Right.
aware that they are choosing not to take it. And then it doesn't come down to the day of the test and they're like, isn't my child taking the test? And it's too late to register at that point.
Well, I can definitely have Shannon reach out to those who aren't registered. Now, as of right now, the way that the recommendation is that we're only gonna pay for the test for those who are in the ACT prep courses. So you'll have to decide, are you gonna pay for it for anybody, even if they're not in the ACT prep courses, any junior, or just those in the ACT prep courses?
What's that number? You know,
I mean, I don't think we should, the districts, how many? 23 that aren't in it?
That are in it.
Out of how many juniors though?
somewhere between 55 and 68 people, I guess.
Yeah, because there's the senior class is high, yeah.
59.
I think you should offer it to everybody. Whether they're in the ACT prep or not. And if they choose not to do it, they choose not to do it. I don't think we should force people. I think the ACT is important. My son has taken it a couple times already. I took it, whatever.
I agree.
But if they don't want to take it, I'm not gonna make it. I mean, we're just wasting our money. Like, I looked at my son and said, you're gonna study this book that we bought because we paid money for it, so, yeah, the district would be just wasting money, but I think we should let everybody have the opportunity to take it, though. Like, we should say, we're gonna pay for it. If you want to take it, you can take it, send something to the parents and let them know. If they want to take it, let them take it. If they don't want to take it, then. But if you're taking the prep course, you definitely should take it, because why are you taking the prep course?
Right.
And it's a free one. I don't know I can't remember how much it costs, the test. Yeah, we just took it.
And that's fine, you just need to make your motion however you want it to be to pay for. You want to make sure we're getting, so if you want it to be any junior who wants it to take it, that's fine.
Way too late for the October test. To register.
We do this one in the spring for juniors.
Okay.
The seniors are taking it in
The
October.
seniors are taking it.
Let's say, also, let's take it in October.
I'll entertain a motion.
already did that.
Yeah, Mark already made a motion to pay for the ACT for juniors. We're taking the ACT. And I've already seconded it.
All right.
So you have an amendment to the motion?
Can we amend that to any juniors that want to take it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is that what you want to do?
Yeah, I would say let's not force the juniors to take it, but amend it that if any junior wants to take it, since we're not making them take the prep class anymore.
I'll amend my motion that any junior that wants to take the ACT prep test can take it. With the district paying the test.
And also that was one-time payment too, they don't pay for the second test.
Right.
Right, it's just the one time.
Yeah, and then I'd say after this year, just see where it goes. If it turns out that it's gonna be a lot of them and it's gonna be real expensive, then maybe we should
Well,
go
we've
back.
been paying for all of them for at least 2 years anyway.
Was it the $800?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Was the $800 assuming the whole?
No, that was not, that was just the ones in the ACT prep class. So it'll, I mean, even if it doubles, we're talking $1,600 minimum.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if we're not making them take the prep class anymore, at least give everybody the opportunity to take it. As I can see someone saying, well, I wanted to take it all of a sudden, but I'm not doing the prep class. And they get mad about it.
And just to clarify, anybody can take it. We're just talking about those the district will pay for.
Oh.
Well, yeah, we know that, that's
So,
what I'm saying.
Okay. Yeah. we
But I
would-
think maybe there's some kids out there who thinking, oh, that's $50. I'm not gonna take a chance, but if they know that it's paid for, they may go ahead and try it, because what do they have to lose?
Okay. Any other discussion?
Did you get a second for the amendment?
Any other discussion?
Say, let's take it up sometime in the spring or whatever it be to require it the following year. I do feel fairly strongly that we should be requiring everybody to take that. This is a good compromise.
Are all the seniors taking it in October?
That was a
Because
carryover from last year.
They
so
were
yes,
required
all of
to
this.
last year.
Well, you can look at your numbers if by not requiring it, but every junior took it, even though they didn't take the prep course. Do you really need to make it mandatory? Because all of them took it anyways.
And the ACT by its nature, I mean, it's a snapshot of intelligence on a point in time. And it's not a measure of how hard you work, and that's why we also include the GPA. But it is a great measure of intelligence. Doesn't mean you'll be successful in college. So we should put the more.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Right name? 7-0. Announcements. Next regular meeting will be October 20th, 2020. Same time, same place. I'll entertain motion to move to closed session.
Motion, we adjourn to closed session allowed 610.021. 1 legal, 3 personnel, 13 personal records, no 6 student.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, motion by Mark, second by Dennis. Any discussion? Roll call, Sean?
Yes.
Yes for me. Ty?
Yes.
Yes.
Naomi? Mark?
Yes.
Lori? Dennis?
Yes.
7-0. Meeting is adjourned. 7:17.